Just have another drink. What do you mean you're on a diet? Come on, just one more. If you ever heard those words and your stomach dropped, not because you wanted a drink, but because you felt physically uncomfortable in saying no, then this video is going to completely change your perspective on social situations. Because you see, the reason why you came in actually has nothing to do with discipline. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your brain fights you in this moment. And more importantly, you're going to have a step-by-step framework to overwrite it without losing your friends or sacrificing the life that you actually enjoy. Right now, you're probably in either one of these two places. You either avoid social situations completely because you're on a diet and you're trying to get in shape and you think that's going to derail your progress, which, let's be honest, doesn't last very long. Or you go out, you cave into the pressure, and you wake up the next morning frustrated and disappointed in yourself. What we want to do here is take you to a complete different place. I'm going to teach you the neuroscience behind why social pressure is so hard to overcome. You will have a practical strategy that works in the real world. You will hear about my personal experience and hundreds of my clients that overcame the same issues. So let's get into it. Before I became a coach, before Hero even existed, I was the lead singer in a band, believe it or not. And for 3 years, music wasn't just something I did, it was my identity. That band was who I was. And the late nights, the pop culture, the post-gig chaos, it was all part of my world. And my whole identity was built around it. And right in the middle of that, that's when I was starting to take fitness more seriously. Now imagine this, every single night you're in a different pub. The band's finished the set, everyone is buzzing, there's free drinks. And the easiest thing in the world is to grab a burger from the bar or to go to the kebab shop down the road. That's what everyone was doing and that's what I was doing too. But then I started learning, of course, I started to understand what my body actually needed. And slowly things began to shift. The kebab turned into my own meal that I was bringing from home. The late nights turned into planning my recovery and adjusting the routine around it. I went from being the guy smashing a burger at 1 a.m. to the one pulling out a Tupperware in the backstage. But here's where it gets interesting. The guys in the band, the actual members, they were quite supportive. When I explained what I was working towards, why I wanted to do it, what I was trying to build with my body and my health, they understood it, they got it, and they respected it. Some of them were even curious about it. In fact, spoiler alert, Tommy, the bass player, about 8 years later became one of the clients in Hero and had an incredible transformation. But they taught me something huge that I'm going to tell you about later on, because first and foremost, how you explain what you're doing really determines how people take it. And the reaction that you will get from people will tell you a lot about the environment that you're in. But what about the wider circle? The friends of the band, the fans, people at the bar every night? Well, that was a different story. They obviously didn't care about my goals. They just saw a guy that wasn't joining anymore. And let me tell you, the pressure was relentless. You've changed. Why are you so boring? Just have another one every single night. And I'll be honest with you, at first I didn't handle it too well. I felt excluded. I felt lonely. And I felt like I was losing real connection with people, the people that I cared about. There were nights when I genuinely questioned myself whether getting in shape was what I really wanted, if it was worth it feeling so out of place. But then something shifted. Instead of sitting in a corner with my meal prep feeling sorry for myself, I started finding other ways to connect. I became the guy that brought a different energy to the conversation without having a drink. I spent more time with people talking about music, the real thing, talking about life, talking about the future. And I realized that the connection that I thought I was losing was never about alcohol. It was about presence. And you can be fully present without a pint in your hand or a burger in the other one. And then the real turning point came after a few months of consistency. Something unexpected started to happen. The same people that were giving me a lot of resistance started to pull me aside after the gigs. Julian, what are you doing? You look completely different. You're jacked. What's your secret? The people that were pressuring me now were asking me for help. And at that point, I understood something fundamental that I teach to all of our clients. Your results will eventually speak much louder than anyone's opinion. But you just have to survive that gap between starting and being undeniable. And unfortunately, that gap is where most people quit. Not because the plan doesn't work, but because the social pressure becomes unbearable. But let me tell you a little bit about why social pressure is so overwhelming. Because it's not lack of discipline. It's not what you think. In fact, a lot of people beat themselves up about it. I'm weak. I have no willpower. I can't stick to anything. But the truth is, what is happening in the moment actually has not much to do with willpower at all. It has everything to do with how your brain is wired. In 2003, a team of researchers at UCLA put the participants in an fMRI machine and they had them play a simple virtual ball tossing game. At some point during the game though, the other players stopped passing the ball to the participant. They were excluded, completely left out. And here's what they found. The exact same region of your brain that lights up when you feel physical pain is called the anterior cingulate cortex. It activated when people felt socially excluded. Let me say that again. Your brain processes social rejection through the same neural pathways as a physical injury. Being left out doesn't just hurt emotionally. It triggers the same alarm system as when you're being physically harmed. And if you think about it, this makes complete sense from an evolutionary perspective. For hundreds of thousands of years, being separated from your group didn't just feel bad. It literally meant death. If you were excluded from your tribe, you lost your protection. You lost access to food. You lost your ability to survive. So the brain evolved to treat social isolation exactly the same way. It borrowed the signal from physical pain and repurposed it to keep you socially bonded. So when you're at dinner and everyone's ordering rounds and your mate says, come on, just have another one, your brain isn't processing that as a suggestion. Your nervous system is registering that as a potential threat. And of course, it triggers a stress response that's going to make you comply and stay. And this is why just willpower fails, because you're fighting a survival instinct, and you just cannot beat a survival instinct with discipline alone. You need a strategy, which is exactly what I'm going to give you right now. Okay, we're going to split this into 3 different steps. The step 1 is handling the physiological triggers. In fact, removing the physiological triggers. Before we even talk about what to say and how to handle the comments, we need to address the physical state that you're in, that you walk into these situations with. Because if you get this wrong, then everything else is going to feel 100 times harder. If you show up to a dinner, to a night out, to a party, feeling completely starving, you are going to overeat, full stop. And this is just biology, by the way, because if you're so hungry, you're not going to make rational decisions. You're just going to grab the nearest source of energy. Your cravings are going to be sky high. So even if you're sitting at the restaurant, you're going to be ordering something that you will later on regret. It's like the old saying, don't go shopping when you're hungry, because you're going to be buying things that you would never buy otherwise. So the first strategy is simple, but is a non-negotiable. Eat something small in proximity to the event. Not a full meal, just enough to take the edge off. Ideally something protein rich. A little snack before you go out. Some Greek yogurt, a protein shake, whatever works for you. What you're doing is removing the physiological conditions that will make the social pressure even harder to handle. And when you arrive satiated, the food at the table isn't temptation anymore. It's just food. Of course, it's not as easy as that, especially if you are in a calorie deficit, but the whole thing is just going to be so much easier to deal with. Step number 2, make your decisions before you go. The second biggest mistake that people make is walking into the social situation without a plan and thinking they'll just go with the flow. They'll just see how it goes. That is a recipe for a disaster, trust me, because going with the flow in a high pressure environment, it means going with everyone else's flow, and you know what's going to happen. So before you leave the house, make your food decisions. If you're going to a restaurant, look at the menu beforehand. Decide what you're going to have. Ideally something protein-based, something a bit lower on the fat, considering it's going to be higher anyway. Ideally, pick your meal before sitting at the table, before everyone else starts ordering burgers or sharing starters. And the same goes for alcohol, especially alcohol, even more so. Before you go out, decide how many drinks you're going to have. Not a vague, I'll try to keep it light. We want an actual number. 2 beers, 1 glass of wine, 1 cocktail, whatever fits your plan. Because the pressure of drinking doesn't come all at once. It comes drink after drink when they tell you 1 more. And if you don't have a specific number in your head, 1 more becomes 2 more, 3 more, and so on. It also becomes so much easier to pace yourself. And if people see you with a drink in your hand, it will be easier to say, I'll pass this next one. So yeah, walking into the room with your decisions already made makes you not rely on willpower, rather relying on a strategic plan. And in a high pressure environment, it's so much easier to deal with that. Now, step number 3, the most complex one, how to handle the comments. You've changed, you're so boring now, come on, live a little. Why are you being weird about it? When someone says that to you, your instincts are to justify yourself, to defend your decision. But that's a bit of a trap, because the moment that you start justifying, you've put yourself in a position where your choices need permission from someone else, but they don't. You do not owe an explanation to anyone as to why you're taking care of your body. You don't need to justify why you're not drinking. You don't need to apologize for ordering a salad. You don't need to defend your choices to anyone. A simple I'm good is a complete sentence. But if you do want to explain, do it from a place that sparks curiosity, not resistance. If you say, I'm on a diet, that immediately creates resistance because it sounds temporary, it sounds restrictive, it sounds like a sacrifice, like you're suffering. And no one wants to support someone that is hurting themselves. Instead, tell them what you're actually working on. Tell them about your goals, your aspirations. Tell them what you're building. I'm running a 6 months program to see how lean I can get. I'm working with a coach for a complete body transformation. I'm training for something that I'm passionate about and I want to take it seriously. Do you feel the difference? One sounds like deprivation and the other one sounds like ambition. And people don't pressure ambition. They get curious about it. They ask questions. They want to know more. And some of them, I promise you, will even get inspired. And this is the thing. This process will also show you who the real friends are. The people who hear about your goals and support you, those are your friends. Those are your people. The people that hear about your goals and trying to pull you back, that tells you everything you need to know about that relationship. When I was in the band, the actual band members, my bandmates, the guys who truly knew me and loved me, they heard about my goals and they backed me immediately. It was the peripheral people, the ones that were never really invested in me as a person. Those were the ones that pushed back the hardest. This is the thing. Social pressure doesn't just test your diet, it tests your relationships too. And trust me, that is not a bad thing. But aside from my own personal experience, I want to tell you about two of my clients that had incredible transformations while working through social pressure. One is George, who was known in his friend group as the beer monster. That was his thing. It was his identity. So when George came to me initially, the challenge wasn't even so much the training and the nutrition. It was changing his habits around social situations, because the potential danger was to lose his identity and everything attached to it. But this is what we did. Instead of giving up on drinking altogether, which obviously wasn't sustainable long term, it's just something he loves, we worked together to find a balance that actually fit his life. We found the right structure that allowed him a couple of beers on a Friday, intentionally, enjoyably, as part of his plan, without it derailing his progress. And the key here is that this was his choice. He wasn't giving into social pressure. He was executing the plan, a plan that we built for him to feel happy in the process while making progress. And that changed everything. As you can see, he dropped a significant amount of body fat while building muscle and strength for a full-on body recomposition, getting him back to being the strongest he's ever been and making his recovery process so much easier as well. All of this without giving up on the part of drinking that he really loves, but it's drinking to the degree that was enjoyable for him. Another one is Ricky, and his situation was completely different from this. Whole different kind of challenge. You see, Ricky is a chef in an Italian restaurant. So think about that for a second. His entire working life is surrounded by delicious food. It's a constant stimulus everywhere, and that's every single day. On top of that, the culture in that kitchen was that after a long, brutal day, they would unwind together by drinking, eating together. It was the ritual. It was the norm. It was how the team bonded. And of course, Ricky was right in the middle of it, overeating after every shift, drinking, and so on. So for Ricky, the social pressure wasn't coming from a group of friends. It was coming from his workplace, from his colleagues. And he just couldn't avoid the environment. So he had to learn to exist in it differently. And this is where we played a lot with the first two steps that I described earlier, making sure that he had food prepped with him, and when he was hungry, he would eat that. So removing the physiological signaling that makes everything messier and harder to deal with. And the step two, which was making a decision beforehand. He would have a plan going into each day, and he would just execute that. And of course, initially it was hard, but then something beautiful happened, because Ricky started to get the results, and the results were showing. And the same colleagues that were drinking with him and eating, overeating, and so on, started noticing it and asking questions and eventually changing their own habits as well. How amazing. And in that moment, he realized something really important. And this brings me to what is probably the most important part of this video, because you can apply all the strategies in the world, but none of these will stick if you don't make this one shift in the way that you see what you're doing. You see, a lot of people struggle with social pressure because they feel as if they're doing something to themselves. Getting in shape is like a punishment. It's a restriction, something they are enduring. And of course, if you see it that way, any social situation is going to be a battle between suffering through the plan or enjoying your life. But that framing is just completely wrong, because you're not doing it to yourself. You're doing it for yourself. And not just for yourself, but for all the people close to you that will benefit directly from you improving the quality of your life. The partner that will get a more energetic, a healthier, a more confident and present version of you. The friends who will gain someone that inspires them rather than just someone that has a drink with them. The colleagues that will develop admiration in seeing what's possible when you truly commit to it. George figured this out. Ricky figured this out. And I figured it out on stage with my band years ago. And you can figure this out too. The thing is, that discomfort that you feel in social situation is actually a sign that you're growing. The question is whether you're willing to sit into that discomfort for long enough to see the results, or if you will let other people keep you exactly where you are. If you resonated with this video and if you found it useful, you hopefully now have a couple of strategies that you can implement right away in your next social situation. But if you want to accelerate the results that you're seeing, and more importantly, join an environment that will make you feel empowered and will help you pushing through, keep growing and come out of the other side as the best version of yourself, let me tell you a little bit about what we do inside Hero. Hero is my one-to-one coaching program where we don't just give you a training plan and a meal plan, whatever. We identify specific patterns that are currently keeping you stuck. The behavioral loops, the beliefs, the social dynamics, all of that good stuff that is really conditioning you and keeping you stuck where you are. We dismantle them one by one while building you a plan that actually fits your life. We have a track record of more than 600 incredible transformations. And if you got to the end of this video, resonated with it all, and found it actually helpful, then you will probably be the right fit for the program. So if you want to find out a little bit more about how it works, click the first link in the description below. You can book a free consult with my team and we'll talk about where you are now, where you want to go, and how we can help you get there. Until then, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. I'll see you in the next one.